the one, the only, Ben Sion.
Good afternoon and welcome to Yeshiva YouTube, just Daf It. Today during Masechah Sotah, Daf Dala number 4. Great share for you today, as usual. Let's start from the bottom of Gilma Bays, the second to last line. Tanarabana, Ezu Edis Rishon. We've talked about on Daf Gimel at the end of yesterday's share. Which I really gave this morning, but don't tell anybody. I'm 2 days ahead anyway. Ezu Edis Rishona, Zu Edis Stira. In the previous Bryce, I mentioned Edis Rishona. That refers to the Edis given about that they were secluded, the man and the woman were secluded. Edis Achrona, in the previous Bryce, is Edis Tuma. It's referring to Edis, they actually saw them cohabiting, being together. Dalam Medal from the top. But Kamashir Stira, the Bryce continues, how long is the time it takes that's considered Stira? They see them together secluded, how long? Right? How long do they have to see them secluded for? Kedei Tuma. So the Bryce answer is the amount of time that would bring Tuma, which means Kedei Bia. The Bryce continues, the amount of time it takes to be together. Kedei Ha'ara. Ha'ara is the first part of Bia, Tchilas Bia. The Gemara in Misachas Yevamos says, Nashika, when the Aver touches the woman's private part, genitalia, the man's genitals touch the woman's genitals. Kedei Akavas Hadekal. The Bryce continues, the time it takes to walk around the palm tree. Divrei Rabbi Yishmael. All of the above was the opinion of Rabbi Yishmael. The Gemara is going to explain why there's so many different ways to describe it. Lezer Omer, Kedei Mezikas Hakos, the amount of time it takes to mix a cocktail. Rabbi Yishmael Omer Kedei L'shtoso, the time it takes to drink a cocktail. Ben Azai Omer Kedei L'tzelos Beisa, the time it takes to roast an egg. Rabbi Akiva Omer Kedei L'goma, the time it takes to actually consume the egg. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseir Omer Kedei L'gmoa Shalosh Beisim Zuach Harzu, to swallow three eggs, one after another. Rabbi Elazar ben Yirmiyah Omer, raw eggs. Elazar ben Yirmiyah Omer Kedei Likshar Gerdi Nima, for a weaver who's an expert in tying knots, a weaver to tie a knot. Chanim and Pinchas Omer Kedei Shetoshit Yadol Sof Pia, Lital Kisem. The amount of time it would take a woman to take a toothpick into her mouth, to take something out of her mouth. Plimo Omer Kedei Shetoshit Yadol Asal Lital Kikar. The amount of time it would take a woman to reach her hand into a basket to take a loaf of bread. Even though there's no proof for this last opinion, the pasuk compares a prostitute to a loaf of bread. So what's the comparison? He learns the comparison is a woman who commits adultery, which is a form of prostitution, I guess. Not really, but commits adultery. It's related to taking a loaf of bread from a basket. Now the Gemara is asking on the first opinion of Rabbi Shmuel, why does it say Kedei Bia, Kedei Tuma, Kedei Bia, Kedei Ara, Kedei Akavas Deka? Why all four things? Tzricha, you need all of them. You need Tana Kedei Tuma. It should say the amount of time for Tuma to have Amina Kedei Tuma Vertusa. I would say not only the time for being together, but also the foreplay, the getting them ready to seduce the woman that she should want to be together with them. Kamashma Kedei Bia, no, doing adultery. You don't have to seduce them. She wanted it already. I would have said, the finishing of the bia, the ejaculation. That's what we're talking about. I would say Gemar bia, kamashman kedei ara. That's why it teaches like the Gemara says in the Vamos. For basically any time the man's genitals touch the woman's genitals, that's already considered bia, and you're chayav misa for that. All the arayas, you violate all the arayas which by doing that. Via Shmina and Kedei Ara, who just said that shir, Havamina Kedei Ara Vertusa. I would have thought, first of all, you need that time, plus the time it takes to seduce the woman. Kamashman Kedei Tuma. That's why I said Keduma, just Kedei Ara. That's really the shir. The Kama. How much is the shir Kedei Ara? How much can take man and woman to seclude themselves? And it's to, undress themselves. And for the man's genitals to touch the woman's genital. First of all, it takes time for the man's genital. We'll talk about this in Ben Zion to, become hard. Usually that's the way it works. So that's included also. We'll talk about that in Ben Zion exactly which of these shitas is right. The big machlokas over here. The Gemara is going to say on Amud Bey is that all the Tanoim measure it by themselves. There's no set halacha. The Rambam does get a psak halacha. I'll talk about what it is. Kedei ara, kedei akafas dekal. Kama right. Kedei tuma. Kama kedei ara. How much is Kedei Ha'ara? Kedei Ha'kafas Hadekel. So, if we just said Ha'ara, I would think also seducing. Therefore, no, just the time it takes for Ha'ara. And how long is that? The time it takes to walk around a palm tree. Now, I don't know how big this palm tree is, but Kedei Ha'ara takes, I don't know, it could take at least 20, 30 seconds, to become hard and to touch genitals. It has to be kishoy. It has to be kishoy, like hardened. Otherwise, it's not considered a bia, I don't think. V'raminu, the Gemara asks a question. Minister, she becomes secluded with the man. V'kama shir stira lo shamanu. We don't know how long the shir. Shu omer v'hi nitma. The pasuk continues and says she became tmeya. Heavy omer kedei tuma, kedei bia, kedei ara, kedei chazaras dekel. Divrei Rebbe Lezer. Sorry. V'hi nitma, when it says v'hi nitma, heavy omer kedei tuma. Amount of time it takes to become tummy. Now, the Gemara continues. The Gemara says kedei bia, kedei ara, kedei chazaras dekel. It's a different. This is a second brisa. It's similar to the first brisa here at the top of the daf, but the Tanoim have different shiurim. Some of the same Tanoim have different shiurim. They're going to ask on all the Tanoim why in the second brisa they seem to have different shiurim. So, kedei bia, kedei ara, kedei chazaras dekel. Chazaras dekel is the returning. The Gemara thinks at this point it means circling a palm tree. Divrei Rebbe Lezer, not Rabbi Shmuel. Rebbe Lezer says Rabbi Shmuel Mer kedei mezika takos. The time it takes to mix a cocktail. Ben Azai Amar kedei l'shilsa. The amount of time it takes to drink a cocktail. Rabbi Kiva Amar kedei l'talis beitza. The time it takes to fry an egg. Rabbi Shmuel ben Masera Amar kedei l'goma. The time it takes to swallow it. So the Gemara thought, how you know hakavas dekel, how you know chazaras dekel? Hakavas dekel means the amount of time it takes to circle a palm tree. Chazar dekel is to go around a palm tree. The same thing. Just two ways of saying the same thing. Hasam Amar Yishmael kedei hakavas dekel. In the first price, Yishmael says the shear is hakavas dekel, walking around a palm tree. Opolig Rebbe Lezer argues on him. Hacham Rebbe Lezer kedei chazaras dekel. Rebbe Lezer said a different shear in the first price. Now he's saying the same shear. So the Gemara says, "Amar Yishmael kedei hakavas dekel." Opolig Rebbe Lezer. Hacham Amar Rebbe Lezer kedei chazaras dekel. Amar Abaye hakafa beregel chazara beruach. So Abaye answers hakafa is walking around the palm tree with your feet. Chazara means the wind blows it. The wind blows the palm tree. The branches go through the gust of wind, and then the time it takes when the gust of wind retreats for the branches to come back into place. By Rav Ashi, Chazar Baruach, when we say that time it takes for the branches to come back into place, the time it takes for the branches to actually come back to where they were, or the time it takes for the branches to actually stop moving, to settle down, right? They come back to the place and they go back a little bit, back and forth, until they eventually settle in place. Teiku, the Gemara is not sure about that. Hasam Amar Lezer, further questioning from the Bryce. Amar Lezer, Kedei Mezikas HaKos. In the original Bryce, the first Bryce on the top of Daf, Lezer says the time it takes to mix a cocktail. Here he says something else. It's the same amount of time. Has two different ways of saying it. Hasam Amar Bishua Kedei L'shtoso. In the first price, Rishua said the time it takes to drink a cocktail. Amar kedei mezigas hakos. Here he says the time it takes to mix a cocktail. So the Gemara says, what Rabbi Yeshua really meant to say is it's a combination of the two prices. The time it takes to mix a drink and to drink it. That combined, that time is the time for kedei tuma. Say mixing it and drinking it is the same shear. If you say that, so it's going to end up being he'll be agreeing with the opinion of Rebbe Lezer. We can't have him agreeing with the opinion of Rebbe Lezer because there's two different opinions over here. So there's different opinions here. One is Rabbi Shua, one Rebbe Lezer. So therefore, they can't be saying the same thing. Hassam, the Gemara continues the question. Amar ben Azak is beitza. First price, he says the time it takes to fry an egg. Haka Amar shtoso. Here he says the time it takes to consume a mixed drink, a cocktail. Whereas it's the same share. Hasam Amar Rabbi Akiva, another question. The first price, Rabbi Akiva says the time it takes to swallow a fried egg. Haka Amar sorry, to eat an egg. Haka Amar beitza. Here he says to fry an egg. No, it's really a combination of both prices. The time it takes to fry an egg and to swallow it. Say they're the same shear, the amount of time. Why do you say both? Maybe just one or the other, and they're the exact same shear. Then he'd be agreeing with Ben Azai, and they both have different opinions over here. In the first price, says to eat 3 eggs one after another. Here he says the time it takes to eat 1 egg. So Rabbi Akiva was talking in his last brisa according to the opinion of Rabbi Akiva. The Kamar Mishar Mitzliya V'Gemia. He says you need. Rabbi Akiva says the way of measuring it is the amount of time it takes to roast an egg, fry an egg, and to eat it. He was just saying to him, why do you say it in that way? The time it takes to roast an egg, to fry an egg, and to eat it, just say the time it takes to eat 3 eggs, which is the same share. Is it talking about tying a knot where the strings are close together or where they're very far apart? The says take or not sure. Take a splinter into their mouth, take some food out between your teeth. Is a piece of meat stuck or is it not stuck? Teku. They're not sure. Plimo Amar. It's the time it takes to put her hand into a basket to take a loaf of bread. By Ravashi, the mahadek or the lo mahadek. Are we talking about the mahadek or the lo mahadek, where the loaf of bread is stuck into the basket? There's a lot of loaves of bread there. Or maybe it's not. There's just 1 loaf of bread. It's easier to take 1 loaf of bread. It's nothing in there. Or we talk about where it's a new basket or an old basket. It's a new basket. It's easier to take it out. Is it hot bread or cold bread? If it's hot, obviously it takes longer to take it out. And we're going to continue to ask on Dalam and Beis. We're talking about wheat bread or barley bread. Barley bread is not as slippery as wheat bread. You can take it out easier. We're talking about soft bread or hard bread. Soft bread, you can get a better grip. We're not sure about all these. Each of these Tanoim, the way they got their shir, they measured when they were together with their wives, how long Kedei Ha'ara was, how long it took for Ha'ara. The Tchilas Bia, Shir. Va'ika Ben Asa. I think where Ben Asa gave an opinion. Delo Nasiv, he wasn't married. Now, the Gemara in Ksuba says that he did get married to Rabbi Akiva. We'll talk more about that in Yom Ben Sion. One opinion is he got married and then he got divorced right away. So he knew the time he was married, he figured out how long he apparently had Bia. And the second answer he heard from his Rebbe. And that's where he got his opinion. Now the question over here also is that the Rebbe is Rabbi Akiva. And Akiva gave a different share than him. A third opinion is that Ben Azai wasn't together with a woman, but he knew he was Yarei Hashem, so therefore he knew the secrets of Hashem, which is hard to understand. What is this, like, a miracle or something like that? Darshan, we're basing halach on this. Darshan Avira, Zimnan Amar Le Mishmei Rabbi Ami, Zimnan Amar Le. I have a whole Yom Ben Sion about this. There's a lot of questions on this, and I have a good answer. Zimnan Darshan Avira, Zimnan Amar Le Mishmei Rabbi Ami, Zimnan Amar Le Mishmei Rabbi Asi. Kol Ochel Lechem Below Netilas Yadayim. Anyone who eats bread without washing their hands, Kilu Baal Isha Zona. It's like he's with a prostitute. Shnemar Kibar Isha Zona Ad Kikar Lechem. The Gemara brings up, as we talked about this pasuk earlier, right? It compares being with a prostitute. A loaf of bread. Talking about you're not washing your hands before the bread. Amar Rava, hi, bad isha zona ad kikar lechem, bad kikar lechem ad isha zona mibayle. If it really meant to say that, the problem you weren't washing for the bread. That's what it should have said first. Bad kikar lechem ad isha zona. By not treating the bread properly, by washing before it, it's like you committed, like you were with a prostitute mibayle. El Amar Rava kol bal isha zona l'sop mavakish kikar lechem. Anyone who's with a prostitute, he'll be so poor that he'll be asking even for a loaf of bread. Anyone who is not careful, he'll be uprooted for the world. When you wash before the meal, you have to pick your hands up like this, right? If you just keep your hands like this, maybe water is going to go above the parak, which is tummy, and then come back and be tummy your hands. So therefore, you pick it up like this. So the water, the post can say also go like that the whole time. It's okay. Also, and by my machronim, you want it to get your entire hands. So that's for you have to put your hands down. Amar Rabbi Abba, kol ochel pasblo nikov yadayim. Let's say you wash for bread, but you didn't dry your hands. Kilu ochel lechem tamei. It's like you ate impure bread. Shenemar vayomer Hashem kacha yochlu bnei Yisrael lachmam tamei. This is Bnei Yisrael is eating their bread without drying their hands. It's called tamei. It wasn't tamei. It wasn't actual tamei. It's like it's tamei because it's not. You feel disgusting when you're eating bread that's touched by water. It kind of makes it go soggy. Similar pasuk. This is a continuation of the pasuk. Mishlei. A married woman, nefesh yikara tatzuj, someone who has a precious soul, will trap her, or she'll trap him. Anyone who's arrogant, she'll eventually commit adultery. That's what it means. Ish will trap, have nefesh yikara. It should say, not nefesh yikara, precious soul, sounds like a good thing, precious soul, nefesh gvoa, an arrogant soul, he tatsun mibayale. It should say that she should trap him. It sounds like this person is trapping her. If you learn Torah, a lot of Torah, it says throughout the Torah it says that it's more precious than pearls. What does that mean? It could also be darshan. It's more precious than a Kohen Gadol doing the avodah on Yom Kippur, going to the Kodesh HaKodashim. Even though he's such a great person, he did the Dina Shal Gehenna. If he's with an Eishes Ish, she'll trap him to the judgment of Gehenna. He's arrogant. It's like he's worshipping idols. Siv Hacha, Tov Hashem Kol Gvalev. Tov Hashem Kol Gvalev, that's an abomination. Anyone, this is a pasuk, I believe in Mishlei or Tehillim, I'm not sure. Tov Hashem Kol Gvalev. Where's the pasuk? I'm not sure what it is. Tov Hashem Kol Gvalev. It's an abomination to be an arrogant person. You shouldn't bring an abomination. The pasuk is talking about Ozara into your house. Rabbi Yochanan himself said, "Amar kilu kafar beikar." It's like he's denying the existence of Hashem. You'll be arrogant. You'll forget Hashem. It's like anyone who's arrogant. It's like you were together with every one of the arayos. It says in the pasuk, it's an abomination to be arrogant. When the pasuk at the end of Achron summarizes all the arayos, it calls them toevos. It's like he built a mizbech outside the Beis Hamikdash. Remove yourself from the person who has his neshama in his face. Yeah, he's a super spiritual person. His spirit is all written over his face. All he does is talk about the Zohar all day. It's arrogant. All right? Not bameh. I'll decree bameh. Ela bama. It's like he builds a bama. Ma yad liyad lo yinaki. At the end of the pasuk says yad liyad yinaki. If he's together with a prostitute, he won't be cleansed. Amarav kolabal ish ish afilu hikneo lakadosh baruch hu. Shemayim va'aretz ka'avram avinu. Even if you're at the level of Avram Avinu, that you gave the world, Shemayim va'aretz, to Hashem, you said, Dichsiv be harimosi yadai el Hashem kel yom konei shemayim va'aretz. He didn't want to benefit of the spoils of the war. He gave them all to Hashem. He won't be cleansed from the Dina Shal Gehenna. So the Gemara says on that pshat, Kashlu the Rebbe Shela. Rebbe Shela asks the following question: Ha yad liyad lo yinaka? I shouldn't say yad liyad. Yadi mi bayala. Yadi lo yinaka. Like Avram said, my hands. It was referencing Avram Avinu. Al amri the Rebbe Shela. I feel kibel Torah k'Moshe Rabbeinu. Even if you accepted the Torah like Moshe Rabbeinu, Tichsib be'imino eish das lamo. It says by his hands, from his hands, right hand, he accepted the Torah from Hashem. Even if you live the level of Moshe Rabbeinu. If you're with an Eishes Ish, right, commit adultery, you'll never get out of Gehenna. Kasha Rabbi Yochanan ha yad liyad, yad miyad mi bayil. It shouldn't say yad liyad, yad miyad. Someone who took from the hands of Moshe Rabbeinu. Rabbi Yochanan, top of him and Aleph, afilu. Also, it's stuck up a seiser. Even if you're someone's on a level that you're doing stuck in private, which is the highest way it should be done. The ksiv, matam a seiser yichaf af. Right, someone who gives stuck up privately, he'll turn away anger of Hashem. Well, you're not going to finish again. You're giving from your hand to a poor person's hand. Nonetheless, even if you're a big Baal Tzedakah, if you're someone who commits adultery, you'll never get out of Gehenna. That's the conclusion of today's shir. Stay tuned for Ian with Ben Sion when I talk about perplexing Gemara, halacha. And the Rambam paskins like one of these 9 opinions. Those 9 opinions to what the shir of basically a hara is, right? The start of Tchilas Bia, right? Of being together. Well, it has to be some conclusive shir. How's the Rambam paskin? How could they all measure by themselves? Wasn't there some tradition handed down? Try to clarify this sugya. Stay tuned for Ian with Ben Sion coming up next.